The story starts with a boy named Calvin. He lives at Chesterfield Orphanage in America with his two best friends, Ray and Muff. The three of them love hanging out on the orphanage grounds watching the other kids play basketball. One day, a boy named Ox shows up with his buddies. Ox lives at the same orphanage, but he's a real troublemaker. He loves picking on the younger kids and making their lives miserable. This time, Ox decides to mess with Calvin. He challenges him to a basketball game. Now, Calvin isn't exactly great at basketball. He's short and honestly, he doesn't believe in himself much. Ray and Muff try to talk him out of it. They know this won't end well, but Calvin is so mad and frustrated that he says yes anyway. The game starts and things go exactly as expected. Calvin struggles right from the start. Ox uses his height and strength to completely destroy Calvin on the court. It's not even close. Calvin loses badly. According to their bet, Calvin has to hand over his t-shirt to Ox. But Ox doesn't just take it. He rips Calvin's favorite t-shirt right in front of everyone. Calvin's heart breaks. You can see the pain and embarrassment all over his face. He feels completely helpless. Later we meet Mr. Lemon, the guy who runs the orphanage. He sends all the kids out to sell candy near the basketball stadium to make money for the orphanage. Calvin, Ray, and Muff are out there too trying to sell their candy. That's when Calvin spots Coach Wagner from the Knights basketball team walking out of the stadium. Calvin walks up to him and tries to sell him some candy. But Coach Wagner is in a terrible mood because his team just got beaten really badly. He says no and starts walking away. Calvin doesn't give up though. He stops Coach Wagner again and explains that the candy money helps the kids at the orphanage. Coach Wagner feels a bit bad and starts pulling out some money to give him, but Calvin surprises him. He refuses to take it. He tells the coach, "Sir, I can't take this money because I don't know if Mr. Lemon is actually using it for us kids." Coach Wagner is really impressed by Calvin's honesty. It's clear this kid has something special about him. He asks him, "Have you ever watched the Knights play live?" Calvin looks down sadly and says, "No, sir. We don't have that kind of money." The coach smiles a little and says, "Well, since you didn't take my money, I'm giving you 4 free tickets to our next game." Calvin's face lights up with pure joy. Back at the orphanage, something bad happens. Some parents show up looking to adopt kids. Calvin gets really excited. He turns to his friends and says, "Maybe today we'll finally get parents too." But Ox ruins the moment. He laughs and says, "Those parents always picked the little kids. We're too old now. Nobody wants us." Calvin's smile disappears. Slowly, all the older kids start feeling the same way, that maybe they'll never have a real family. The next day, donated stuff arrives at the orphanage. Old clothes, toys, all kinds of things. Calvin is going through everything when he finds a pair of white basketball shoes. His eyes go wide. He quickly puts them on. A nun who brought the donations tells him something amazing. These shoes used to belong to Michael Jordan himself. Calvin can't believe it. He's a huge Michael Jordan fan, so there's no way he's giving up these shoes. But of course, Ox shows up with his crew. He grabs the shoes right off Calvin's feet. Then, just to be mean, he ties the laces together and throws them up onto the electrical wires outside. The shoes just hang there, completely out of reach. That night, everyone's asleep. But Calvin can't stop thinking about those shoes. It's pouring rain outside, thunder rumbling everywhere, but Calvin doesn't care. He wakes up Ray and Muff, and the three of them sneak outside into the storm. Calvin starts climbing a tree near the wires, trying to reach the shoes. Rain is coming down hard, making everything slippery. Just as he gets close, there's a massive flash. Lightning hits the electrical wire. The shock throws Calvin backward and he crashes to the ground with the shoes. Ray and Muff rush over, terrified. But somehow Calvin is totally fine, not a scratch on him. Then Calvin notices something weird. The shoes are glowing with this bright, strange light. He picks them up slowly, staring at them. That's when he realizes these aren't just regular shoes. There's something special, maybe even magical about them. The next day, Calvin and his friends head to the stadium with those tickets the coach gave them. They're super excited. Today they're not selling candy. They're going inside to actually watch the game and have fun for once. But Ox finds out about their plan. He walks up to Calvin and tries to scare him. "If you guys go watch that game, I'm telling Biddleman everything," he threatens. Calvin's heart sinks. He knows Bidman will be furious, but then Calvin gets a smart idea. He offers Ox one of the tickets. "Come with us," he says. Ox thinks about it for a second, then agrees. He can't pass up a free game. So now all 4 of them, Calvin, Ray, Muff, and Ox, make it to the stadium and start enjoying the game. It's amazing. When halftime comes around, the star player Tracy is out on the court with Coach Wagner. That's when the stadium announcer says they're going to do something fun. They're picking someone random from the crowd to come play a quick game with Tracy. They do a lottery draw and guess whose number gets called? Calvin's. Calvin can't believe it. He's jumping up and down with excitement, but Ox can't stand seeing Calvin happy. He gets mad and tries to rip the ticket out of Calvin's hand, but Calvin's too quick. He dodges Ox and runs straight down to the court. Now it's time, Tracy versus Calvin. At first, Tracy doesn't take it seriously at all. He treats Calvin like a little kid, letting him score a few easy baskets just to make the crowd happy. Everyone's laughing and cheering. But then something changes. Calvin keeps scoring again and again. Tracy's smile fades a bit. He starts actually trying now, using his full skills to block Calvin, but Calvin just won't stop. He's moving faster than anyone expected. Then out of nowhere, Calvin makes this insane jump, way higher than should be possible. He flies through the air and slams the ball right into the basket. The whole stadium goes silent for a second, then erupts in cheers. Everyone's shocked. Tracy, one of the best players in the league, just got beaten by a kid from an orphanage. Even Tracy himself is standing there with his mouth open, staring at Calvin. That jump, it wasn't normal. No one jumps that high. Something about Calvin has definitely changed. And the secret? Those old Michael Jordan shoes Calvin's wearing. The very next day, Coach Wagner shows up at Chesterfield Orphanage with his manager. He asks Bidman if Calvin can have the day off to play a game with the Knights team. Blemon immediately says no, but the second the coach mentions money, Blemon's attitude completely changes. Oh well, in that case sure, he says, agreeing to everything. When Calvin and his friends hear the news, they go crazy with excitement. Calvin's actually going to play with real professional basketball players. Calvin, Ray and Muff all know the truth. It's all because of those magical shoes. Calvin makes them promise not to tell anyone about it. But Ox is watching from a distance and jealousy is eating him up inside. He can't understand how Calvin suddenly became this amazing player when just days ago Ox could beat him easily. Then it hits him. It's the shoes. Those white shoes are what's making Calvin so good. The next day Calvin shows up for the big game. Tracy sees him and gets upset. His teammates have been making fun of him nonstop since that halftime show. You got beaten by a little kid, they keep saying. Coach Wagner hands Calvin a brand new Knights jersey and a fresh pair of team shoes, but Calvin speaks up nervously. Coach, can I wear my old shoes instead? The coach shrugs. I don't care what you wear. I just want the stadium packed and the money rolling in. The game starts and by halftime the Knights are getting destroyed. Calvin hasn't even been put in yet. He runs up to the coach begging to play. The coach finally agrees. We're already losing badly. What's the worst that could happen? Calvin runs onto the court, but then suddenly he calls for a timeout. His face goes pale. He looks down. He's wearing the new shoes, not his old ones. Panic sets in. What if he can't play well without those magical shoes? He sprints straight to the locker room, changes back into his old white shoes and rushes back out. And just like that, everything changes. Calvin starts scoring like crazy. Within minutes, he brings the team from way behind to a tie. Then he just keeps going, single-handedly destroying the other team. The crowd goes absolutely wild. Everyone on their feet cheering. Calvin's teammates are hugging each other, celebrating like they've won the championship. After the game, the coach and manager sit Calvin down and make it official. They sign a contract with him. Calvin's going to play several more games with the Knights. Calvin goes back to the orphanage and starts packing his stuff because he has to travel with the team for the next game. That's when Blemon walks in. Suddenly he's being super nice to Calvin, talking all sweet and giving him advice on how to behave. It's obvious what Blemon's doing. He wants Calvin to pick him as his legal guardian so he can control Calvin's money. But Calvin's smart. He doesn't fall for any of Blemon's tricks and just leaves. When Calvin joins the team, Coach Wagner makes Tracy his roommate. Tracy has to look after Calvin now, make sure he gets to practice on time, eats properly, all that stuff. Tracy's not happy about it at all. But Calvin, he's over the moon. He's sharing a room with one of his heroes. Later that night, Tracy goes out to see his girlfriend. Calvin's left alone in the hotel room and he goes absolutely wild. He orders tons of room service, eats everything in sight, jumps on the beds, throws stuff around, basically turns the place into a complete disaster zone. When Tracy comes back with his girlfriend, his jaw drops. There are food wrappers everywhere, pillows on the floor, and Calvin's just lying there in the middle of the mess like nothing's wrong. Tracy's girlfriend can't help but laugh, but Tracy's furious. Together they spend the next hour cleaning up the entire room. Finally they get ready for bed. Tracy's exhausted and just wants to sleep. But the second he closes his eyes, he hears it. Calvin's snoring. And it's loud. Like ridiculously loud. Tracy tosses and turns all night, trying everything to block out the noise, but it's no use. He doesn't get a single minute of sleep. The next day they have a big game. Tracy's stumbling around the court, practically falling asleep on his feet. He can barely keep his eyes open. Calvin notices and tells Coach Wagner what's going on. The coach storms over to Tracy and starts yelling at him. You're supposed to be a professional. How can you come to a game like this? You need proper rest. Tracy tries to explain, but the coach doesn't want to hear it. He gives Tracy a serious warning and walks away. Meanwhile, Calvin keeps playing game after game and he's unstoppable. He's beating every team they face, almost all by himself. Word spreads fast. Soon, Calvin becomes the biggest name in basketball. Everyone in the city knows who he is. News reporters are lining up to interview him. He's winning awards left and right. His face is on TV and newspapers everywhere. But here's the best part. Calvin doesn't let fame change him. He keeps thinking about his friends back at the orphanage. He sends them gifts, brings them cool stuff, does whatever he can to make them happy. Ray, Muff, and all the other kids are so proud of him. Even his fans love that he hasn't forgotten where he came from. After another big win, Calvin finally gets some time off and heads back to the orphanage to visit everyone. He's hanging out with Muff, just catching up. Muff's really happy seeing how well Calvin's doing, but Ox is lurking nearby, listening to everything. Jealousy burns inside him. He can't take it anymore and tries to grab Calvin's shoes right off his feet. But Blemon shows up just in time and yells at Ox, chasing him away. Blemon doesn't want anyone messing with Calvin now. Calvin's bringing in tons of money and attention to the orphanage, so Blemon wants to keep him happy. Soon Calvin's back on tour with the team and once again he's rooming with Tracy. Tracy's had enough of the snoring situation. He drives to a medical clinic to pick up some medicine so he can actually sleep. What he doesn't realize is that Calvin snuck into the backseat of his car. They get to the clinic and Tracy accidentally grabs the wrong medicine. He takes a sleeping pill instead of an allergy pill. They both get back in the car and as soon as Tracy tries to drive, his eyes start drooping. The pill's already kicking in. He's falling asleep right there behind the wheel. Calvin starts panicking. If Coach Wagner finds out they were out this late, they'll both be in huge trouble. So, Calvin makes a crazy decision. He's going to drive the car himself. Keep in mind, Calvin's just a kid who's never really driven before. He gets behind the wheel and somehow manages to start the car. He's swerving all over the place, knocking over trash cans, scraping against things, barely missing other cars, but somehow by some miracle he gets Tracy back to the hotel. The next day, Tracy finds out that Calvin got suspended because of last night's mess. Tracy feels terrible. He goes straight to Calvin and apologizes. "This is all my fault. You got punished because of me," he says. Calvin can see Tracy genuinely feels bad about it. After the games wrap up, Calvin heads back to the orphanage. That same day, more parents come looking to adopt kids, but this time, every single one of them wants Calvin. Blemon knows this, so he does something sneaky. He only brings the worst possible parents to meet Calvin. People who are clearly not fit to be parents at all. Calvin looks at them and feels really uncomfortable. He can't picture himself living with any of these people, so he says no to everyone. He'd rather stay at the orphanage with his friends. But something else is happening. Muff's starting to feel jealous too. Calvin's become this big star. Everyone wants him and Muff feels left behind. A few days later, Calvin goes to Tracy's house to talk. He tells Tracy he's really worried about Muff. He's upset because nobody wants to adopt him, Calvin says sadly. Then Calvin mentions that they have exams coming up. Tracy smiles and starts playfully teaching Calvin some math to help him study. While they're hanging out, Tracy gets an idea. "Why don't you call Muff and invite him over? Maybe it'll cheer him up." Calvin thinks that's perfect. He calls Muff right away and soon Muff shows up. The three of them spend the whole day together laughing and having fun. Muff feels a lot better. When Calvin gets back to the orphanage, he tells his friends something he learned. Tracy doesn't really get along with his parents. There's this big distance between them and they barely talk. Calvin's friends immediately come up with a plan. "You should try to get Tracy and his parents back together," they say. The next day, Calvin goes back to Tracy's place, but this time he's done something bold. He invited Tracy's dad to come over without even asking Tracy first. Tracy has no idea what's about to happen. Tracy's dad shows up at the door. Tracy sees him and immediately gets furious. She turns to Calvin and starts yelling at him, "How could you do this without asking me?" She's so angry that she kicks Calvin out of the house. After that fight, things get really bad for the Knights. They start losing game after game. The two main players, Tracy and Calvin, aren't talking to each other anymore. The tension between them is killing the whole team's vibe, and it shows on the court. They just keep losing. Back at the orphanage, more parents show up wanting to adopt Calvin, but Calvin's already made up his mind. He's not going to like anyone. Blemon tries to convince him. Maybe these people are different. Just give them a chance. Go have dinner with them, he says. Calvin reluctantly agrees. Before he leaves, Calvin hands his magical shoes to Muff. Take care of these for me, okay? He says. After Calvin's gone, Muff puts the shoes on and starts trying to jump around like Calvin does, but nothing happens. He can't jump high at all. He just looks like a regular kid bouncing around. Exhausted, Muff sits down and stares at a picture of his mom. It's the only thing he has left to remember her by, and it makes him really sad. That's when Ox walks in with some of his friends and Blemon. Bidman starts casually asking Muff about the shoes, acting all friendly. Then Ox and his crew do something horrible. They grab Muff's mom's picture and start threatening to burn it. Muff's terrified. He doesn't know what to do. They light the picture on fire. And in that moment of fear, Muff breaks down and tells them everything, the whole secret about the shoes. Blemon gets exactly what he wanted. He takes the shoes and goes straight to his gambling buddies. He's completely confident now. Without those shoes, Calvin can't play. He's going to lose badly, he tells them. So Bidman bets a huge amount of money against the Knights, betting on the other team to win. He's certain Calvin's team is going down. Meanwhile, Calvin's at dinner with the potential adoptive family, but once again it doesn't feel right. Calvin realizes these people aren't the family for him either, so he says no again. Right before the big game, Calvin's phone rings. It's Muff and Ray, and they sound panicked. They tell Calvin everything. How Blemon threatened them, took the shoes, everything. Calvin's heart drops. He immediately runs out and rushes back to the orphanage. When he gets there, Calvin and all the other kids work together. They corner Man and tie him up. Every kid in the orphanage helps. Even Ox is there, but he's just standing to the side. Then Man starts screaming at Ox in front of everyone, blaming him, humiliating him. That's the moment Ox has had enough. He's tired of being Blemon's follower. He makes a choice. He's going to help Calvin now. Ox runs to Blemon's safe, cracks it open and pulls out Calvin's shoes. He hands them back to Calvin. Go, he says. All the kids start running toward the stadium, but Blemon manages to call his sketchy gambling friends. Stop that kid. Do whatever it takes. Don't let him reach the stadium, he screams into the phone. But Calvin's determined. He keeps running, dodging obstacles, pushing through. On the way, Blemon shows up again, trying to block his path. Calvin doesn't hesitate. He shoves Blemon hard and keeps sprinting toward the basketball court. When Calvin finally bursts into the stadium, he looks up at the scoreboard. His heart sinks. The Knights are way behind. The other team is destroying them. Calvin doesn't waste a second. He quickly puts on his old magical shoes and runs onto the court. And just like that, everything changes. Calvin starts scoring like crazy. He's flying across the court, making impossible shots, completely taking over the game. The other team doesn't know what hit them. He's scoring point after point, bringing his team back into the game. But then during one intense play, all the players crash into each other and pile up on top of Calvin. When he gets up, he looks down at his feet and his heart drops. The shoes are completely torn apart, ripped to shreds. Calvin feels like everything's over. He thinks, without these shoes I can't win. I'm nothing without them. He's ready to give up. That's when Tracy walks over to him. He puts his hand on Calvin's shoulder and says something that changes everything. Your strength was never in those shoes, Calvin. It was always inside you. Those words hit Calvin hard. He realizes Tracy's right. He takes off what's left of the torn shoes and puts on a regular pair. Then he walks back onto the court with new confidence. And you know what? Calvin plays even better than before. He's making every shot, dodging every defender, leading his team like a champion. Without the magical shoes, Calvin proves that the magic was in him all along. He carries his team to victory in the final game. The entire stadium explodes with cheering. Everyone's on their feet, screaming Calvin's name. His teammates are lifting him up, celebrating. But after all the celebrating dies down, Calvin makes a huge decision. He tells Coach Wagner that he's not going to play for the Knights anymore. The coach is shocked. Why? He asks. Calvin looks him in the eye and says, I want to go back to my life with my friends. I want to be there for the kids at the orphanage. That's where I belong. So, Calvin goes back to the orphanage, and guess who shows up? She walks up to Calvin and says, I want to adopt you. I want you to be part of my family. Calvin smiles, but then he shakes his head. I'll only come with you if Muff can come too. He's my best friend. We're a package deal. Tracy doesn't even hesitate. Deal, she says with a big smile. So Tracy adopts both Calvin and Muff and they go to live with her as a real family. And there's more good news. Ree gets adopted by a wonderful family too. All three friends finally get the homes they've always dreamed of. In the end, everyone finds their happiness. And Calvin learns the most important lesson of all. Real strength doesn't come from magic or special shoes. It comes from believing in yourself, working hard and never giving up. Subscribe to movoreel, where every movie tells its